This is Steve Meehan for the Kent Pilot. I want to welcome Paul too. Paul is a Chestertown resident and co-founder of the Bayside Hoyas, an organization that is playing an important role in the lives of African American youth in our community. Paul has now joined forces with the Social Action Committee for Racial Justice. Paul, the Social Action Committee for Racial Justice jumped into the breach at the start of the COVID shutdown to create a supply chain for fresh food for children and the elderly in Kent County. Where does that effort stand now?
Currently, we're in week 15. We're still at it. We're serving over 200 senior citizens on a week-to-week basis. They're receiving all type of staples, so they're getting tuna fish, they get fresh produce, they get fresh meat, and we identified the need and just kind of like you said, jumped into it. It started out with us doing kid bags because Kent County Public Schools, they were doing the breakfast bags. No, they were doing they were doing lunch and they were doing dinner. So we provided the breakfast bag so kids would have 3 meals. That grew into a partnership working directly with Ed Silver from KCPS. And it was a great partnership, but we're still at it now. The school has taken over the lunch totally, and now we're just focused on the seniors.
And you're also working on the racial justice side on the 100 Days of Action.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about that.
All right, so the 100 Days of Action, that derived right from Social Action for Racial Justice under the latest tragedies that we've had in our country. And because of a lot of attention, people were paying attention to Social Action for Racial Justice because of the food initiative. Our membership has grew tremendously over the whole COVID pandemic. So now that we have a bigger membership and bigger audience, we wanted to capitalize on, I guess, the momentum from the latest tragedy. We wanted to not let this come and go like other events have in the past. In order to get some real change and to push some change structurally in our system, we came up with the 100 Days of Action.
And there are actually two events coming up on June 19th and June 20th. In your organization, the June 19th is the Day of Agreement gathering Friday evening. Your organization is planning something on Saturday. Tell me about that.
Okay, so everything's around the Juneteenth. The Day of Agreement, I think that's going to be a great activity. There's a lot of partners involved with that. And then coming right back, stand in the spirit of celebrating Juneteenth weekend, we're doing a rally right in town. We have Councilman Tyler is going to speak. The state's attorney, Brian DeGregory, is going to speak. We'll have some live music. And it's just to continue to bring awareness for police brutality and police initiative. We want to change some things. We want to take this time to really try to change some things structurally. We want a police review board that's manned by citizens. We want our police to get CIT trained, that's crisis intervention training. And now is the time to push for those things while not only, our country is paying attention, but I feel like the whole world is paying attention right now to how we respond to this latest tragedy.
This is also, this effort has really brought out youth in our community.
Yes, sir.
And can you talk about the STAR program real quick?
For sure. So Students Talking About Race, STAR is the acronym. I co-founded that with Barbie Glenn 3 years ago, and that arose because of a racial incident that happened at Kent County Middle School. Once we were able to get into the school, we identified some kids who wanted to do some activism work. And they've dedicated a lot of time in the last 3 years on getting trained. They've done trainings at Washington College. They've done Undoing Racism. They've hosted trainings. They presented to professionals, which was super big, at Chesapeake College maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago at a big conference. They were able to talk to professionals about some of the stuff they wanted to see in their schools. They just held a march last Friday that was pretty good. It was attended well, and they spoke, they led it. They were the driving force from the flyers to the location to the time. So it's real authentic youth-led initiative with Students Talking About Race. But we have some fantastic youth in that group.
Another initiative you are working on is the BMCC?
Yes, sir.
What is that?
All right, so that's the Black Men's Community Council. We have Social Action for Racial Justice, and we have other initiatives that are sprouting, and they're diverse and they're mixed. The BMCC, I wanted to create an intentional space for Black men to be able to come together and talk about things in the community, whether it's mentoring, volunteering, politics, all things community, education. in order to kind of like, so to speak, get our house in order, get our agenda together. And I will, of course, continue to work in more diverse settings, but that space was an intentional space for Black men to come together.
Touch on the new PSA you have released starring Black high school athletes here and white athletes here on the shore.
Okay. So me and Melvin Freeman, we're in a group chat with a bunch of those young men because we've been doing a lot of working out during COVID. When we were able to get outside in smaller groups, we put those guys in a group chat. So after the Floyd situation, just had a lot of emotions, a lot of thoughts. So reached out and I wanted to challenge them. Me and Melvin talked about challenging them to do something. We didn't know it was going to be a PSA. So in that group chat, we bounced around a few ideas. They threw around ideas, and one of them said PSA. And I said, that's doable. That's super doable. So once they were on board, we worked out some scheduling because they're busy, they're working, they're doing other stuff. And then I reached out to John Schrottweiser, Kent Cultural Alliance. And he was totally on board. I reached out and asked him to direct. He said, Paul, not only will I direct, I'll get you a cameraman. I want this to look the way you want it to look. I want to take your vision and make it pop. Then Doncella Wilson with Minari's Dream Alliance, she jumped on board and she supplied mass, local rainy gutting. She bought shirts. It was like it came together in less than an hour. Like.
And who are the kids in the video?
All right, so the ages run from 7 to 21 years old, right? And I thought that was super cool. We have local kids, Manny Camper, who's he'll be a senior at Siena this year if he doesn't go to the NBA. Then we have Jay Sean Freeman, Cyrus McGowan, Anthony Truxon, Gene Trice. Those are all the local kids. Paul 2 the 4th, he was in it with Jerron Hoxter. And then they opened it up to kids from Talbot County. We had kids from North Carolina. We had kids from South Carolina as well. So I believe we encompassed 5 counties with this PSA.
And what is the message you're trying to get through on the PSA?
All right, so the purpose and the message was just, we wanted them to use their platform as young people. They're some of the best athletes on the shore. And I think oftentimes you have kids who coming from racist backgrounds. They learn some of the stuff at the dinner table, cheering for them in basketball games, cheering for them in lacrosse games, cheering for them in football games. Then they go back to those racist environments, and they're just another epithet or another slur. But no, if you can come and you can cheer and scream your loudest for them when they're playing for your school, and in the hallways you're calling them your friend, you need to understand that racism affects them. They go through it. They walk that walk. So we wanted to hopefully with this PSA reach that population and where they can have a conversation. It means different when you see a Jay Sean Freeman, a kid that you hoop and holler for on Tuesdays and Thursday nights when he's playing basketball, to know that he's affected, to know that he has some trauma around racism, and all of them do.
And these kids are coming out and saying that.
Yes, they're standing on it. They if I think a couple of the lines, if you can cheer for me while I'm doing my respective sport, then you can stand with me now. Silence is complicit at this point in time. You can no longer be silent and call yourself a friend.
Paul, too, thanks for joining us today. This is a very important conversation we're having. I want you to come back and let's continue that. And for the Kent Pilot, this is Steve Meehan.